Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card. Today's pick a card, I'm delighted to say, is part of a collaboration with the lovely Toke from Priestess of Phoenix Tarot. So this is actually the first of three in a kind of a trilogy, if you will, almost like book one, book two, book three, around a theme of you pursuing your holy grail, your quest in life, your spiritual path, looking at it through three different types of lenses. And in this first one, we're going straight to the kind of Holy Grail mythology, the source material in a way, the Arthurian legends. And I am looking at what the Fisher King has as messages for you. And in particular, because the Fisher King is one of the kings, the last in the line of kings to protect the Holy Grail, who has lost their fertility, their potency, their capacity to take things forward. And so that the land is becoming a wasteland, who is then saved by the Grail Knight, bringing the Grail, returning the Grail and so forth. What my side of this is, and you can watch these in either order, mine or Toke's in either order, but my side of it is looking at something in your life around your life mission, your soul mission, the things that you want to bring as a legacy into the world that maybe has sort of got stalled or has some questions you need to ask to liberate it. And there's many different versions of the Fisher King, but it is ultimately a story of redemption and reclamation. So that's what I'm looking at. What can you redeem and reclaim to move forward with then the advice of the Grail Knight, which is what Toke will be talking about, to pursue your path. But if you've come from Toke's reading, that's not a problem, because this is just really some other information about what is worth taking forward from the past into the future, how you would reclaim it, any wounds or questions. And the reason I keep talking about questions is one of the stories, and as I say, there's a number of different stories about the Fisher King, but one of them says that in bringing the Grail back, the Grail Knight has to ask specific questions of the Fisher King to heal the land and to reclaim the Grail. So part of what I'm going to be looking at in this is picking up that theme after sort of looking at what the Fisher King has to say to you, and also the point of view of the Grail Knight. We'll then look at what questions the Grail Knight is asking you via as the Fisher King in that sort of form before then bringing it all together. So hopefully this will be an interesting and enlightening and probably fairly deep sort of reading, because I am very much looking at things that need to heal or be reclaimed, but ultimately it is a redemptive and it is a reclamation story, as I say. So depending on which direction you've done it, it either gives you some extra information for what Toke's reading from the Grail Knight is saying, or you can take this and then see what the Grail Knight has to say so that you can take your quest into the future. So with that much said, the connection to Toke's reading will be in the description box below, so that, as I say, you can, if you feel like you want to see what the Grail Knight says first and you've come here first, then by all means click off and come back here afterwards if you then want to sort of look at what the Fisher King has to say, but that's up to you in what direction you do it. I'll put down the numbers as usual for those that like that. 3 piles to choose from. You can, of course, go to more than one pile if you feel drawn to more than one pile. What I've done here is I'm using a different tarot deck for each of the readings. There's one common tarot deck that will be used in all of them, but otherwise I'm using this for a different kind of energy. I drew on 3 that I felt kind of connected the spiritual side of the Fisher King mythology and also that kind of Arthurian kind of feeling to it as well. So pile 1 has, and I'm using the King of Cups because to me that is probably the best representation of a Fisher King energy, the sort of sense of the healing and the kind of sense of healing, emotional clarity and so forth that can come with that sort of energy. So we have the King of Cups from the Somnia Tarot for pile number 1, the King of Cups from the Green Tarot from a tarot creator called Anvior or something like it. It's a French name. All the details for that particular tarot store on Etsy are in the description box below, and apologies to the creator if I've mispronounced it. French is not my strong suit. It's a very, very beautiful tarot, with a kind of green heart energy to it. And so we have the King of Cups from that tarot for pile 2, and for pile 3 we have the King of Cups from the Pastoral Dreams Tarot. So the images may draw you, as I say, go to more than one if you want. When you know what reading or readings are drawing to you, the timestamps as always are in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome, pile one, to your reading. So what we have here are 3 cards from the Mists of Avalon, which seemed the perfect sort of deck to help to get the theme of this and the messages from the Fisher King for you, plus a card from the Lilith Oracle. And this card is meant to give me a bit of a sense about what is the wound, because the whole thing about the Fisher King is that the reclamation, the reformation, the moving forward energy comes from healing a wound, something that hasn't worked, something that is past its time, whatever it would be. And the interesting thing is you've got the past here, and it talks about grief, identity, and forgiveness. So I think that for many of you, there is a connection. It could be a connection. When we're talking about grief, it could be sort of someone within your ancestral line that you're connected to that maybe you need to detach from, not necessarily to do it without love or anything like that, but there is a sort of a sense here of moving from one person to another, to the new you, and needing to understand the impact that the past is having on you and how that impacts your identity. So there is something here where a relationship or a connection has either suppressed your identity or slowed it down or has caused you some trauma, and for you to be able to go forward and follow your Grail Quest, your Northern Star, you need to let go of something in the past. So I do think for pile one there's a very, very strong connection to the Fisher King here, because it is about the past that needs to be sort of reconsidered to bring the Grail back in. And it's really shown by here. There's a very interesting storyline here, because I asked Spirit for a card to represent a bit more about the wound itself, a bit about the question you need to ask yourself, and a bit about what healing and reclamation would look like, just to give us a high order idea about what the Fisher King wants to talk about. You've got Excalibur for the wound. Now the interesting thing here is Excalibur was, of course, the sword that was given to Arthur by the Lady of the Lake. It was to take on one's personal power. And it actually talks about, are there connections you need to make or connections you need to sever to be able to go into your destiny, into your future? I think for most of you, there is an energy here about severing something that didn't work. This could be in your career, it could be in a love relationship, it could be in a friendship, it could even be, as I say, ancestral stuff that needs to be cleared. But it is also possible, because this card does talk about when you're taking your sovereignty, you're taking your power, you might also get people rallying behind you. So there might be some from your past that you do move forward with. If that's the case, however, with forgiveness here, it's like there is an energy now for you to move towards your destiny, your North Star, but you have to either let go of the past or forgive it to take people with you. So the question that you have with the King of the Fairy Realm is about getting into your own personal power, what that means to you, what the journey is. And the fairy realm is a little bit scary, isn't quite the right word, but it is a little bit challenging. It asks you to go within the depths and really understand. So this is asking you, in making this decision, to go into the depths of grief or disillusionment, or where, as I say, your identity might have been sort of suppressed or stolen in some way. Whatever this energy is, it's like really looking at your own shadow and understanding, so you make this decision wisely. What do you cut off? What do you move forward with? And part of it, when we look at the reclamation and the reformation with Nimue, which is about respect and self-esteem, it's whether or not, in going forward with whatever this is, whatever you're trying to pursue, the question when you look at your own shadow here to take your personal power is, have you outgrown something? Because Nimue's story is very interesting. She was Merlin's greatest student, and eventually she was too trapped by him. He fell in love with her, and she had to, in effect, trap him. Some talk about the crystal caves. In this particular deck, they have it within a tree. So he's trapped because it's the only way she can have her independence and create her own journey. So for some of you, there's a very clear thing here where someone has had either too much control or too much influence over what your destiny is, and you need to maybe let that go, forgive it, so that you can move forward. This is like a graduation. This is like moving away. The student becomes the master, that kind of energy. For others of you, it could be around a relationship that was too sort of possessive, that you need to really think about. But you do need to work out for yourself, Are you separating for the right reasons, or is it because you couldn't forgive something? Like, is there something that could be reclaimed from this, or is actual separation the necessary thing? So it's a lot about relationship for this. I think there's a current or past relationship that's bearing a big sort of part for you on you following your North Star. So if that resonates, you've definitely come to the right reading. So we're going to ask Tarot, we're going to start with Somnia Tarot, and we're going to ask a couple of things before we then get the view of the Grail Knight with the different tarot. So the first thing I want to ask is, what past energy is coming up for you to heal and or restore or transmute. So it's very apropos for you. Like, let's get a little bit more of an idea about what we're talking about. And then we're going to ask about how does this sort of help you, understanding this help you to go towards your Grail energy. So firstly, what past or current energy that's sort of been built from the past is the Fisher King asking you to really examine at this point to decide what you take forward and what you don't take forward. Queen of Swords reversed, Six of Wands, Three of Swords, the Emperor reversed, the Queen of Cups reversed. Okay. So this is definitely suggesting, I think, for most of you, that separation in some form is going to be necessary with the Three of Swords, and it could be a bit painful. But this is looking as though, particularly this identity thing, I think for many of you, you've had an idea, you've got your particular North Star, but someone else is either trying to control it or take it over or claim it in some way. This is why you have to understand what is it that either made you allow that to happen, or what is yours and what is somebody else's, what is truly you, and what have you learnt from others, but what are you ready to do? There's definitely a sense here that somebody has been overly critical and maybe not wanting to sort of let you heal or let you come into emotional authenticity because they want the glory in some way. This is what it looks like. And you do need to separate. Any of you that you relate to that, you do need to separate, because this is an abuse of power. So if you think about Nimue, if she'd stayed with Merlin, it might have come from some sense of love, but it was distorted love because he wanted to control her. So she had to imprison him so she could be free. So there is a battle here about purpose and identity, but it is important for you in deciding how you separate out, how to go towards your North Star, how to actually get the recognition you deserve, not to become the thing that you are trying to escape. I think that's the main energy here. Arthur with Excalibur was given Excalibur because he was following his destiny. That's the thing. I think someone wanted to, as I say, jump on your bandwagon or something. There's something like that, or control you and tell you who you should be in some way. And for some of you, this could be very, very profound with identity there around, shifting your identity in a very real way, because, society or others have tried to sort of tell you something that you don't internally feel. But there is a sense of separation from any illegitimate sort of either manipulative or critical power, because it's getting in the way of you being recognized for what you can do. So it's a very strong sort of consistent message here. So that's what you need to kind of heal and transmute, this sort of suppression energy. So then how does doing this help you with your stepping into Excalibur, stepping into your power? Four of Swords reversed, Ace of Swords, the Moon reversed, Two of Swords, the Lovers. Okay. So this is interesting. I do think with the Lovers card coming up that there is something about a relationship moving forward. So the question will be, as I say, this is why we have the interesting kind of almost dual message. Is this a situation where there is a relationship that if you forgive certain energies, you could go forward with and not feel trapped in and be able to pursue what you wanted and then do it jointly? Or is this one you need to separate out from because there's something else coming? Because I think this would be suggesting there is maybe in that case a relationship that's more balanced. You see in this particular deck how their hands are kind of held together and they're going to potentially walk up this ladder together. So I feel there's something about relationship. But whether this is like a love relationship or a business partnership, It will depend on who's come to the reading. It's definitely saying that there's a choice around this, though. That's the choice to face, and that there is information you need to bring up, and I think it's bring up within yourself. The moon reverse sometimes can be, external information coming in, and for some of you there may be an indication here, a bit like the sword of truth coming in. The truth is going to come in anyway to help you. You're going to have the information to do it. But I think for many, because of that question being in the realm of the Fae, there is a sense of you need to go into your own shadow, as I say, to work out what the right decision is. Something new is meant to come from this, and you're meant to be much more seen in the world than you are at the moment around this. That's why I feel like for most of you, this is about something that is, it's a creative project or something like that. If it's connected to love, it's somehow how your own personality is maybe not being seen as much as it should be. So, being in an unequal partnership for some reason, even if there's something good there, the issue is, can it be shifted so that you're not feeling like Nimue and, as I say, having to kind of lock up the other person and run away if that's the case. But there's definitely a sort of essence of understanding what the decision is around relationship that's important to you, that the Fisher King wants you to understand. Now, the interesting thing about that for you is that, and this may resonate to some, in some versions of the Fisher King, the reason that the Fisher King is not fertile, the reason that the land is becoming a wasteland, is because he actually was unfaithful in a relationship. So it could be that there is either someone's been unfaithful to you or you have been, and this is why you've got to kind of look at this sort of energy. Like, is it you needing to be able to work out what would make you commit to a relationship rather than feeling dominated by it and so forth? So it just depends, but there is something about relationship here. So let's ask the Grail Knight using the Lost Tarot. I'm just going to use 3 cards from that. And what I'm asking is what, could be brought to you now, because the Grail Knight brings the Grail to the Fisher King. So what could the Grail Knight bring to you now to help you with this decision? 4 of Wands, 10 of Coins reversed, 4 of Coins. Okay. So the Grail Knight is coming to you to say that the old order is dead, and whatever that means. It doesn't mean there is a new order, there is a new thing that you can manifest, definitely, and that the foundations are there. So if we're looking at this as the metaphor of the land being in waste, the wasteland can actually be revived. So it's saying that is the case, and it is done through the right connections, the right teamwork, the right family, the right friends. There is cause for thinking there will be help for you, but it's like, that's why it's important to work out what didn't work before, what is past its prime for whatever reason. That can turn this around and make something build. So depending upon what this is, as I say, a relationship, a career thing, whatever it might be, the Grail Knight says that the foundation is there. So even if there has been a kind of a sense of things dissolving and whittling away in some way, there is a real foundation to work with. I'm also getting, because of the time that I'm filming this and sort of roughly when it's likely to be published, so this may not be the case if you see this quite a long time later, but we are now at the point where Saturn is going into Pisces. And one of the interesting things about that is Saturn almost represents the 10 of Coins upright. It's the structure. Pisces is the numinous and the ephemeral. And I feel like there's a lot that's going to happen in the next couple of years while Saturn is in Pisces, where a lot of old order things are dissolved. So I think you are in line with the zeitgeist, and you'd have to be watching this quite a lot longer away for this not to apply, because, as I say, Saturn in Pisces is, Saturn moves slowly. So I think that there is a new order that you could be building in your own life, and it's more in collaboration with others. So this is why it's so important to understand what are the right collaboration points for you, what would be the right energy on that level. So let's have a look at what questions are best for you, and also what mystery propels you to the next step. So we're going to use 3 Stories Oracle cards. And as I said in the introduction, the reason that I want to do questions is that in one of the stories of the Fisher King, what the Grail Knight really brings are questions that unlock the answer and the healing. So I'm feeling like I want to get 2 questions for you that the Grail Knight asks. And then we're going to say, ask you as the Fisher King. And then a 3rd question, which is, what is the mystery to propel you forward to your next step? So what are the 2 questions that would help you reclaim and heal this energy? Firstly, we get the constellation of boots, and it says, what if everything isn't always fair? Yes, something hasn't been right. And I think the question around this is, how do you differentiate, as I say, what to go forward with and what to move away from? Because in either case, it could be because something wasn't fair. In one case, it could be that someone was trying to steal your glory, steal your idea, something like that. And it's not fair, and you should walk away from it. In another case, something might have happened in a relationship that didn't seem to be quote unquote fair, but there's still something that could be forgiven and worked with. So it's sort of like the question not to ask in a way is, was this a fair thing to happen? Because the answer is no, it wasn't. But the question is more, if everything isn't always fair, what is there in this thing that you're working through and deciding upon? What is it truly to you? Then the second question that the Grail Knight would ask the Fisher King is from the constellation of Cetus. What if you could see the world through the eyes of your enemy? Yeah, you've definitely had an enemy. You've definitely had an enemy. But this is why the King of the Fae, this is why that energy of understanding your own shadow, like, was this a battle where there were two equal partners and it was just what it was? It's like understanding the other. And then having that to make the right decision. Then you will make the right decision. And it's like, it will help you move away from what was unfair if you could understand the other, even if you still move away from them. It's really key. You're not going to heal until you can do that, until you can understand that. So then what is the question or the mystery that propels you to your next step? And we have the constellation of Centaurus. What if you spent your life on something that will outlast it? Yes. This is all about your legacy in some way. A relationship that lasts and has a family, or however you would have your legacy through through a relationship, a business, a cause, whatever it is. And the Grail Knight has told you that even though the old order is dissolving, there you have the foundation for this. So that's the thing. What's the long range thing here? Arthur had to be about the kingdom, not just about his own personal stuff. So what would you want to be your legacy? That's the key to really trigger you into understanding what the Fisher King is telling you here. So let's get you some other guidance. Let's first of all get some Celtic guidance, given that we're sort of in that kind of realm. So what else does the Fisher King want to say to you? Surrender, let go, freedom flow. In whatever this is, surrender to the process, I think, because for each of you there's going to be a different answer as to whether or not you bring things forward from the past or whether you let go. But you do need to surrender. That will bring through, like surrendering to your destiny. That's what Arthur had to do for the Lady of the Lake, to bring the sword. And the crone, fairy godmother, wisdom, future, truth. There's energy around you in the Fae. The Fae is very strong around you to give you the wisdom to be able to work this out. And it's like, what is the mature approach I'm getting? And like that is, you may have to be the more mature of two people in this situation. Let's also get you some star or numerology advice from the Fisher King. Sixth house. There's something about this is in service to others. And the great kings, the great, the protectors of the Grail, all of that, they are in service to the land, to others. This is why also the Four of Wands, community, the connections to others is important. And Pisces. Yeah, and as a saying, Saturn in Pisces, this is a time to dissolve the things that don't work anymore for you and to dream it all up again, really, in terms of what would you want your legacy to be. Don't be afraid to go into those depths. Don't be afraid to go into the emotion. You will have the wisdom and the guidance to do it. If you just surrender to that, then you work out what your goal is, and it is to serve others in some way. Servant leader is the sort of terminology I'm feeling about this. So to finish off, I want to draw 3 cards for you. One is a card from the Lantern Oracle. So this is to guide your way. And so the Fisher King is helping you with that. Then one from the White Light Oracle to bring a kind of very strong, positive white light energy to you. And lastly, a card of alchemy to see what you will alchemize in your healing process as the Fisher King. So firstly, circles. Clarity begins in the eye of the storm. Yeah, it's all the way through this. The only way out is through. You need to go within and work out what this really meant to you. And if it hurt, let it hurt and then let it heal, because then you can move on. But you need to understand there are cycles. There are cycles of growth and decay. All of that sort of stuff occurs. But the Grail can be yours. The next step can be yours. With the Ace of Swords, there's a promise there. The new idea, the new energy is coming through. White light energy for you. Bastet. It's also saying lighten up, literally, and have a bit of fun as well. Because Bastet is about that. It's about joy. It's about fun and so forth. And this particular Hertz frequency is to kind of get enjoyment back and that kind of sense of being re-energized. So I think that the Fisher King is saying here to you that he understands, that he knows how this feels. Healing in itself is often a bit of a painful process, but this is to allow it to happen as quickly as possible and as deeply as possible, so that you can reclaim joy. So one of the things you're meant to do is reclaim joy. I don't think you've been very joyful around this for a while, and I think you're meant to be there. So last but not least, let's see what you're alchemizing with the help of the Fisher King to prepare you for your Grail Quest. Pile 1. Smoke. Yeah, where there's smoke, there's fire. What's really going on? So smoke in the laboratory can be something good. It can be the various stages of alchemy occurring. It can also be a warning. So it's going to very much depend on who's come to this reading as to whether this is all about understanding the warnings and detaching from something that you need to detach from with good grace and without bitterness, so that you can move into something new, or whether it is that there is actually kind of the fire of something that could be creatively, passionately done together, if you either forgive something or you let go of something to let something new in. So this is what the Fisher King wants to talk to you about. It is about relationship in some way, but it's also about your identity and your path. So I hope that resonates for you. As I say, you may have come from Toke's reading, in which case hopefully this has given you some extra information, but otherwise please do go and see her readings. She is a lovely reader who is very gentle energy, and I think it's kind of good to have a bit of gentle energy when one is dealing with something at this kind of depth. And I think it will give you a lot of inspiration and joy, and take you back to the fun of pursuing your Holy Grail Part 1. So if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. If you enjoyed the reading, please like and subscribe. But beyond that, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. So this layout is using 3 cards from the Mists of Avalon Oracle to show, firstly, the nature of the wound or block that the Fisher King is wanting to help you break so that you can move towards your Holy Grail. The second is around the question, the nature of the question that you need to think about. And the third is about what can sort of occur, what can be the outcome, when you're heading towards your Holy Grail. This card from the Lilith Oracle is all about where the wound might be or what might be doing it. And we have here the thunderstorm. So ferocity, anger, unpredictability. And it's very interesting with this energy. This looks to me like what the Fisher King wants to help you heal and move on from is some sort of block to you being able to use your power as opposed to what is expected of you. And why I say this, and it's getting to a point within you where it is a thunderstorm, where it's a bit like the Tower card in the tarot, where it's necessary to unblock something and move forward. So it's definitely a good clearing energy. But when we look at the wounding with Morgan Le Fay, this talks about, fate and destiny and prophecy. Morgan is an ambivalent figure in a way in the Arthurian mythology, because she is almost handed a destiny to play out the broader destiny of Arthur, and yet she is a very powerful entity in and of herself, and and probably has good reason to be feeling resentful of the hand that she was dealt to some degree. So this card talks about being able to understand you can change. You have the power to change what you felt was your allotted thing. So this could be that you've been expected, this is just a very prosaic example of it, but you've been expected to be a lawyer because you're from a kind of household of lawyers, and that's all that's, everything has been drilled towards that, and yet you really want to be a poet. So it's that kind of energy, and you really do have the power. So the wound here is to realize that you have had some restriction put on you or some obligation put on you. And there may be, because of this card over here, some truth to some of it. So I think one of the issues here is about working out where are you obliged in some way to others through, commitments you've made, vows you've made, whatever it might be, and where can you be free to be yourself. This is the key thing that the Fisher King wants to talk to you about, so that you can then follow your Grail Quest with the Grail Knight when you go to Toke's reading, if you haven't already done that. So there's something in that. There's something about understanding the difference, because Lancelot is, in the Arthurian legends, the figure that had to decide between his honour, his duty, and his passion. And of course, in doing that, triggered a whole range of things that was necessary for the Arthurian legends to work out their destiny. So there's a real thing of, do you feel like you're a pawn to destiny? And the question to ask with Bridget, who is the goddess of the eternal flame, is, what are you passionate about? What would you breach an obligation for because you're so passionate about it? Is there a way to connect your passion and your obligation so that you are the architect powerfully of what you do, rather than feeling constrained and unable to follow your passion? So whether this is in a career, whether, as I say, Holy Grail kind of broader energy, whether it's even about a relationship, because Lancelot was, in a forbidden relationship, so to speak. And that kind of pull between, the obligation and the passion was a really key one. And very much, archetypally, the characters in the Arthurian legends were playing out much bigger picture things. But this is a point where you're about to really erupt if you don't get to work this out. So it's a very important energy that the Fisher King wants to talk to you about, because you need to clear that out and work that out. What are you obliged to that you think is valid to you, and what are you passionate about, and how can you connect those two things? And whether this is in a love relationship, career, creativity, spiritual approach, that is a very real question for you, because you have more power to change your fate than you think, but you feel at the moment trapped in some way. So let's ask a little bit more with tarot. Let's ask firstly, what past energy, that we're seeing here, or current energy, could you heal and transmute with the Fisher King's advice? Two of Wands, Ace of Wands, King of Pentacles, Queen of Pentacles. Oh, okay. Knight of Pentacles. Oh, yeah, this is very much this. Okay. So we're really almost seeing the balance. For many of you, I think this might be family or some sort of like business or career or legacy. There's something like that that's operating with the King of Pentacles and the Queen of Pentacles for some of you, and then the Knight of Pentacles. This could be you in a lineage of some sort. This is where the control is coming for many of you. So family expectations or business expectations, it's very material, and you are very much a loyal person. You are very, like Lancelot, you would be torn. You would be torn internally around if your passion was taking you differently to what your dedication was. But it's very much influenced by other people. As I say, parents potentially, managers in a workplace, what if there's something very material, and there is a kind of a agreement amongst others about what your loyalty should be. But at the same time, you are starting to have that sense of what your passion is. And it's in its early stages with the Ace of Wands and the Two of Wands. You kind of know there's a choice coming up about what are you passionate about, and you know that this is going to have to almost be negotiated, or you have to breach some of that loyalty to reach that energy, whether it's creatively, passionately, or whatever. For some of you, this could be that you're in a established relationship and new passion is coming in, and you're going to need to work out where you sit with that. So it just depends on how this plays out. But there's definitely a sense of other people. This is very strongly a sense that other people have put some obligations on you, which I think by and large you accept, but you're going to have to reconcile it to follow your Holy Grail, because there's got to be almost a negotiation here. You've got to be able to also follow your passion. So let's ask what can be, what from this energy can prepare you for following your Holy Grail. If you understand this energy and what's going on and what the Fisher King is saying, how will that prepare you to follow your Holy Grail? Four of Wands reversed. Three of Swords. The Hierophant. Wow, okay. The Emperor. Oh my goodness. Ten of Swords reversed. Look, I do think, like for most of you, Some of you, it could be around like kind of a love relationship. If it is, then I think it's one that's been around for quite a while, and there are kind of obligations and vows. But I think for many of you, this is either a very strong pattern from your family that you need to break, or it's something in your career. What you need to do, what you need to kind of like process so that you're ready to move forward, is understanding the power dynamics behind the structures of your life. And the drama, like, you know, like releasing the drama. If you were to follow your passion, you are going to need to have a bit of a you know, argument, a bit of a separation, something like that. You know, you're going to have to face it. You can't stay happily in this environment much longer. So this is a workplace. Obviously, look for another job or whatever, but you're going to need to sort of say, to follow my passion, I need to do something else, and it's going to upset some people. Like, that's the truth, and you know it, and you've been like, you're ready. You're kind of ready for that energy, because people have like almost, I don't know whether they've done it deliberately, but they've almost gaslit you to think this is just your lot and this is what you have to do and this is how it is. But you need to break some of those chains. They're not working for you. And that is going to require you to separate out from something. Now, if it's like family, it may just be that you need to put up some sort of boundaries so they're not influencing you too much. If it's work, as I say, you may move on from a job when you sort of find something that's better for you. If it's around creative or spiritual stuff, then there's something really controlling and very materially focused in the energy around this. And I think you need to get back to the passion and to the heart of it. So it just depends what it is. But this is inevitable. The Fisher King is saying the only way that you can really heal and reclaim your Holy Grail and move forward is to let go of the false ideas and the false imprisonment that has been put on you. So let's see what the Grail Knight has to say. So I'm just going to get 3 cards from the Lost Tarot for that. So this is just a little bit of a 2 cents from the Grail Knight. I would obviously say go and see Toke's reading to get far more detail on what the Grail Knight wants to say. But given this background and what the Fisher King is trying to help you heal and reclaim, what does the Grail Knight have to say about it? 9 of Coins. Yeah, the Independent card. There you go. 3 of Coins. And you will be able to find others who are right for you. Queen of Cups, more emotionally right for you. So the Grail Knight is saying you have to be independent before you can find your right people. So there's something about this. And look, maybe it was materially sensible to be connecting with these other people. But at the end of the day, you're now going to need to sort of cut the apron strings and kind of move into your own independence. And you will find the right people to collaborate with, ones that are more in line with your heart. It is possible. That's what the Grail Knight wants to say. You can find that balance. And you'll put your loyalty then into those that you can collaborate with, rather than those that are kind of controlling you on one level or another. So that's interesting. So as I said in the introduction, one of the things that the Grail Knight does in some of the versions of the Fisher King story is they ask a question or a series of questions of the Fisher King, and that is what kind of reclaims it. That's what brings it to the surface. That's what allows the Grail to come back to the Fisher King. So I want to use the Stories Oracle because it has questions, and I want to ask a couple of questions about what questions would heal and free you, and then what mystery or question then propels you forward. So firstly, one of the two, what question would heal or free you in this situation? And we've got Orion. What uncharted territory will you explore? Yeah. You can't go to the uncharted territory. You can't go to the new. You can't follow your passion if you're stuck in the very, very stable, very structured, very sort of power-oriented thing. You know, this is asking you, inviting you to explore your own power and your own passion. A second question that the Grail Knight might ask the Fisher King. Pegasus. What if loving even the undiscovered parts of ourselves is the greatest act of revolution we are capable of? Yeah. There's been a lot of control around here about what it is to be a good person, to be a right person, to be a loyal person, all of that kind of stuff. There's been a lot of that. Whether it's been deliberately done as gaslighting or whether it's, the people really believe it, you need to be able to accept your own internal stuff and be able to love that and move forward to find the right people for you in this situation. So then what mystery or question would propel you onto that next step, pile 2? The galaxy or the constellation of Serpents. What if you outgrew the idea that you are not enough? Yeah, exactly. Wow. Wow, this is a pretty clear message. As I say, it doesn't necessarily mean that people around you have done this deliberately. I'm not meaning to demonize anybody. It's not helpful to do that in something like this. You'll know if they didn't mean well, but beyond that, I wouldn't be looking for that. I would just be looking for the fact that you've outgrown something. And that's what you need to understand and be able to sort of expand yourself out and do it without feeling that you've kind of somehow faltered in your commitment to something. This is the next evolution that's necessary for you. So let's get you some guidance, firstly from the Celtic Oracle, given we're kind of in the realm of the Celtic when we're talking about Arthurian legends. So what else would the Fisher King like to say to you, Pile 2? Divination, guides, Ogham, tree spirits. Okay, this is saying that you can use divination to get to the core of this. So this reading will be helpful for you, but also if you like a particular type of divination, then turn to that. There is information that can come to you. And I think the more information you have to bring this into balance, the less you have this sort of like risk of the thunderstorm, of just exploding one day because you're just feeling too constrained. So divination could help you see, in a sense, almost what would be the consequences of different choices so you can make a wise decision. And the Green Fairy, Mischief, Freedom, Reckless. Yeah, a little bit of fun. And it's interesting that you came to the Green Tarot. So I think the heart, getting to the heart is very important. But this is all about, you don't have to be so earnest all the time, Pile 2. And I'm a fairly earnest person, so I'm not being critical, but I think it's just something to be aware of. Let's get you some either star guidance or numerology guidance as well. 7th house, yeah, it's all about relationship, connections, the relationships that you have now and how they might constrain you and how you can liberate yourself, the relationships that you're going into. I mean, for some of you, this could be that you found the great love of your life and your family doesn't approve, and it's kind of like, well, really, it's the great love of your life. So the answer's kind of there right in front of you. And we have 2, yeah. I think that by making that decision about what you're passionate about, you find the right connections. At the moment, you're kind of like operating on somebody else's sort of like timeline in a way. So interesting. So given that guidance, let's now close out with 3 different oracles. I want to get you a guidance from the Lantern Oracle to light your way. I want to get a White Light Oracle to give you white light protection. And then I want to close out with an alchemy card to see what you're alchemizing and healing overall with this advice from the Fisher King. So firstly, the Lantern Oracle, a light on your way from the Fisher King to you. Perspective. A calm and clear mind is free to see differently. Yeah, this is all just about seeing things differently. As I say, for most of you, it's not necessarily that people mean harm with this, but it's just this like you're in a set situation and there's expectations. And I think it's like look differently, get a little bit of distance from it, see what is really going on. White light energy for you. 7 blessings of Eve. Oh, beautiful. This is a very powerful energy around wisdom. This is about shifting away from a false perspective. So whatever you felt you were obliged to do, there might be some elements that you can continue with, but you need a different perspective because you're being brought the wisdom of Sophia, the sort of the concept of what the true thing is. And it comes also to bring a blessing so that you're enough. You don't have to fulfill other people's definitions of you and what you're supposed to do. If you follow your true heart, and particularly, as I say, with all this green energy, your true heart, then you can't go wrong in following your Holy Grail. You will have that wisdom to do it. So let's just finish up with an alchemy card to see what you're alchemizing with this healing advice from the Fisher King, Pile 2. Sun's Splendor. So this is the promise. This is the promise of the new day. And the sun, your energy. Like you have the thunderstorm, you work out how to manage that and how to make a decision to move forward. And then there's that freedom energy, the birds flying away. Again, the distance perspective of your sun, your life path. You are meant to reconnect with who you truly are. So that, as I say, you're not bogged down by the sort of definitions of other people, even if they are well-meaning. So this is about you finding a life path. So it's a very, very strong message from the Fisher King that it was important, say, to hear this message and to go and see Toke's reading if you haven't already, to find out what the Grail Quest is, because that's part of what your life path is. And you are ready for it. You will have the wisdom. You can gain the perspective. You don't need to kind of have a meltdown. You can actually get this into balance once you connect to your heart. So I hope that that resonates for you, pile 2. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. And do go and see Toke's reading to see your Grail Quest if you haven't already done it, as I think that's really in some ways the most important of these 2 readings is that one. But this is just to give you a foundation so that you start on a very sure footing. Beyond that, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So we have 3 cards from the Mists of Avalon to show in turn the wound, the question to ask to help with healing the wound, and the future Grail mission as a result. And we also have a card from the Oracle of Lilith to talk about the wound itself. So this is a bit about the wound, but this is the overarching energy. And what I'm using these for before going to the tarot is to get a sense about what would the Fisher King really want to talk to you about. This group are the leaders in times of major change. It's really interesting. So the center card here, the disintegration, it talks about fragmentation, breakdown, and strength. And this is the point. It's like that sort of Rudyard Kipling thing about if you can, hold your head when everybody else is losing theirs, or words to that effect. It's that kind of energy, and particularly with King Arthur as being the ultimate outcome, the once and future king, that kind of energy. This is all about dealing with change. And I feel very strongly, I've said in one of the other readings that at the time that I'm actually filming this, Saturn is going into Pisces. It'll be there for a couple of years. So even if you see this quite a long time after it was published, it's probably still the case. Saturn is all the old energies, all the sort of structured things. And Pisces is the most sort of ephemeral and numinous and almost dissolving energy. So I think we're going to see over the next couple of years massive changes around the structures of the world in one form or another, and it's going to permeate both the personal and the professional, the political and the social, all of that kind of thing. This group are going to be involved in that. You are here to help with the dissolution of one order into a new in one way or another, definitely. And this is why we get these particular cards. The Lady of the Lake. So the wound here is about really understanding your truth. And it can be hard to do when a lot is shifting, when we're on shifting sands, whether we're looking at the financial, environment at the moment, whether we're looking at the political environment. The wound is making sure that in a time where much is breaking down, that you can stay true to your truth and understand what that is. You may have found it very hard, or you may be going to find it very hard, because the question is about how to deal with that which is difficult and keep your head, as I say. There's definitely that kind of thing. You have a mission, basically, pile 3. And it could operate at any number of levels, but it's about that. You will be the calm in the crisis person. That's one of your strengths, but you still experience the crisis. So the Fisher King is saying, I understand the wounding that comes with that. I understand the wounding that can come in being a truth teller in a time of universal deceit, as the I think Orwellian quote talks about, where at that sort of time, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. So there's that kind of energy about you, and there is this sense. The question is, what do you do when things are difficult? How do you stay true to your destiny, which is about being a leader with King Arthur? So King Arthur is all about coming into your authority, coming into your power. Now, leadership can be in many forms as well. Some of you who come here may be political leaders now or into the future. You may be social leaders. You may be leaders of organisations that are sort of like going through changes economically, whatever it might be. Others of you, it may be much more personal, and you're just the leader amongst your friends or in your family. You have a sense of stewardship. But this is, you are here for a reason, and your time is now. But it doesn't mean it's easy. So the Fisher King wants to sort of help you understand that, because you can feel wounded in your truth when, as I say, there is universal deceit. So let's use the tarot to get a little bit more information. So firstly, I want to ask the Fisher King, what past energy or current energy can you now heal and transmute? And then we're going to ask, how will that propel you forward into your Holy Grail Quest? So firstly, what are you primed now to be able to heal and transmute? The world. Many of you are going to be on the world stage in one way or another, I think. Queen of Cups reversed. 3 of Wands. King of Cups. Oh, there you are, the Fisher King. Three of Pentacles. Okay, it's early days in whatever this is. It's just starting. Just starting. You have a vision of it, and you have some of the right people around you. So that's wonderful. I'm kind of thinking of, Frodo carrying the ring and having Samwise with him. There is a sense that there are right people with you. So even though things are difficult and you're going to take on a difficult role, you do have the right sort of people around you who can see the truth that you see and can see the wound that you're trying to heal. You come from a very beautiful heart space, the Fisher King is saying. That's why you could be the servant leader. You come from the right place and you're drawing people to you because of that, but you're in a time where the greater world energy is towards emotional inauthenticity. So you are the authentic emotional leader in a situation where the opposite is currently in control. So as I say, that could be at the very personal level or it could be at a very political, social level. But you are meant to heal this thought that this is inevitable, that's just the way things go. Things always end up here. Civilizations always fall, companies always fall, whatever it might be. Spiritual groups always become corrupt. You are meant to bring a new energy that is actually healing into something at the time when it's dissolving. Very, very interesting. So let's see how the Fisher King's energy is meant to help propel you forward to be able to become the King Arthur of your story, basically. Ace of Cups, it all comes from the heart, and there's the Grail. Six of Wands reversed. Devil reversed. Wow. Page of Swords. The Moon. Okay, very spiritual. This is very spiritual. A lot will come from the numinous, from, dreams and meditations and all that kind of thing. And you, in fact, will connect with those who can see the world the same way as you do a lot through that, through spiritual principles and so forth, but also through electronic. I think you could be keyboard warriors. You could be people who are out there, in social media in some way. Your communication style is very, very warm and draws people in. Very beautiful sort of energy on that level, which I think is really important. You can send out a healing message. This is the understanding this and understanding what it is that you're battling, and at a very deep and psychic level and spiritual level. You are meant to release people from energies that are too constraining. So there is a real spiritual warrior energy here, actually. And the issue for you are meant to always have your eye on the Grail, always your eye on the prize, because you will not be recognized immediately. This is the difficulty. And it's like any hero's journey in any kind of movie. It's often the person who's going to be the leader in the end is the last person people think at the beginning. So there's that. You are going to have to go through a period of time where there is deceit and that kind of thing around this energy, whatever it is that you're doing, and you won't be recognized at first. There will be energies operating to do the exact opposite, who see you as a threat. But this is the promise that you can break through that through the way you communicate and through your psychic and spiritual ability. Just keep your eye on the Grail, because otherwise, if your ego gets sort of like tied into this, and if you start looking for, well, how do I broker a deal with what's disintegrating, you will get washed away with that, and you won't reach your destination. So it's like, don't worry, you will be recognized eventually, but for the moment it's about the message and the spiritual alignment and following the Grail. So let's see what the Grail Knight has to say. So we're using the Lost Tarot for just 3 cards of his viewpoint. And you will get much more on that if you go to Toke's reading for what the Grail Knight is saying to you now. So, but just for a little bit of a taste here, a little bit of a teaser for Toke's reading. Grail Knight, the Fool, the Knight of Wands reversed, the World. Okay, it's interesting. The World is there. This is like there's a circling energy here, the Fool to the World. This is a very long-term journey you're on. This is not going to happen in a couple of days. And with the Knight of Wands, you don't have to rush into everything. This is the full journey. This is from cradle to grave. I mean, not literally in your life, but when things dissolve and the new comes in, you're meant to be the steward over this from the beginning through to its culmination. The old order is going to dissolve. You're meant to bring the new in. You do not have to rush it. In fact, don't rush it, because in the beginning of the dissolution, it's going to be very hard to navigate. You know, the fool will be wanting to move forward quickly, but you know, it's take a little bit of time. Don't rush in too much, because this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. So the Grail Knight wants you to understand that this has a full-blown trajectory. This is not something that you can walk away from in whatever level it works on. This is part of your destiny. You're meant to do this. So no pressure on you, pile 3, but let's see what we can help you with. Let's get you some questions. So as I said in the introduction, in one of the versions of the Fisher King, because there's quite a number of them, but in one of them, one of the key things was that the Grail Knight brought questions to the Fisher King that made him understand what needed to be healed and helped the Grail be brought to him. So I'm going to ask 2 questions that are about what heals and frees you in this situation, and then also a third one, what mystery propels you to your next step. So firstly, a couple of questions that the Grail Knight might ask you as the Fisher King in this situation. So firstly, from the constellation of Andromeda, how can you best trust and protect your heart? Yeah, and how do you do that? This is a very complex environment that you're in, and it could be quite beguiling. Some of the old order could be quite beguiling. But you're meant to bring in a new order. And like, how do you protect your heart in that? How do you keep it pure? How do you keep the innocence of the fool? This is by not rushing too much. Again, not feeling you have to complete everything, you know, in a couple of days. It's another question that the Grail Knight would pose to you as Fisher King. Pegasus. What if loving even the undiscovered parts of ourselves is the greatest act of revolution we are capable of? This actually came up in another reading, so some of you might have come to a couple. But this is, knowing that the new world that you're bringing in might be even something that you weren't even sure about, something that you've got to kind of like regulate to make sure it's connected to your heart, and maybe wasn't recognized by others. And yet that's the act of revolution, bringing that thing in, knowing that it's worthwhile. So then what mystery or question would propel you forward? Pile 3. Orion. What uncharted territory will you now explore? Both of these came up. I'm not sure if they came up in the same reading, but some of you may be coming to a few. And there is some similarity in some of these readings, so that could be very true. So what is the new? What is the fool going to do? At a time when everything is dissolving and changing, what would you want to create? What would you want to take from the first idea through to its fruition? What's uncharted? What's new? What's different? Rather than just recreating the same old, what could you bring in? Okay, so let's get you some advice. We'll ask the Celtic oracle first, because there's sort of Celtic energy around the Arthurian legends. So what else can the Fisher King bring to you, pile 3? Master of the hunt, speed, masculinity, flow. Okay, so this is the sense of that. It's not about gender, but this is about power. This is about the divine masculine energy. This is about action. This is about decision. This is about leadership. And there is something you're meant to pursue. Like, even with that, you get the sense of, even while things are dissolving, the person is moving quickly. There is speed. Now, the Grail Knight says you don't have to go full tilt. Like, you can slow down, you can consider it, but you are still meant to pursue something. You are meant to take action. This is not something, even though there's a lot of spiritual power that's coming through for you, this requires action. And the maiden, innocence, love, and the past. Yeah, and the connection to your heart and to the innocence. So the innocence of the fool, the innocence of the past and what you would want to have brought in, all of those sort of things are important. And bringing in the new. The maiden represents the new. The maiden, the mother, and the crone. But it is about action. And this also says a very good balance between divine feminine and divine masculine, but it kind of suggests that at the moment of your divine feminine and masculine, what you need from your divine feminine is that sort of sense of innocence in the heart. What you need from the divine masculine is action. Let's see what either astrology or numerology can also advise you, pile 3. Fixed, yeah. You have to stay fixed to something. You have to stay loyal to it. When everything else is dissolving around you, you have to stay loyal to, excuse me, the quest. Don't let anything dissuade you. And conjunction. You are going to find the right people. It could be the right love that sort of takes this forward. But it could just also be the right people. You are going to connect to the right people. This is meant to connect with others. It's not just a solitary thing. This is why it requires action. It's something in the world, pile 3. And it doesn't have to be, as I say, on the world stage. So I think some of you could be, to be frank, looking at this. But like, you don't have to be. It's not lesser if it's not. Okay, so to finish off, I want to get 3 oracles to give you some last advice from the Fisher King. So firstly, I want to get you from the Lantern Oracle, a light to guide your path. Okay, we've got confusion. Growth hurts, heals, and harnesses a way through the uncertainty. Yeah, it's inevitable when we started with the dissolution that we're going to see there's going to be difficulty in this, and there's going to be confusion, and you're not going to be sure all the time. That's why the Grail Knight says you don't have to hurry on everything, you know, just stay true to your heart, take action when you're ready, because it's going to be a bit confusing at times. So this is bringing you, the Fisher King is bringing you some light in the confusion so that you know that you can move forward. Then some white light energy for you as well, another form of light to light your way. The Shakipat of Seahorse. This is reflecting that energy, because the seahorse, this talks about dealing with turbulent waters, and we're seeing that. So there's something very turbulent and different. This is, you have to be able to deal with this. But the seahorse brings grace, brings the capacity to connect with others, the right people, find the right community, the right people, and so forth. So in the midst of all of this, you will find the right people, and you will find the light. You will get grace. You are meant to do this. I mean, you wouldn't have got King Arthur. There's a kind of a destiny to it, but it is going to be confusing at first. It is going to be difficult at first, but you will find your people. It's saying it over and over. So to finish off, let's just draw you an alchemy card to see what the Fisher King wants you to alchemize and heal to prepare you for your Grail Quest, pile 3. Oh, wow. Okay. Benevolent guide, yeah. So this is basically just saying this is a point in the alchemical process where one might be confused or a bit lost, but you are going to have a guide. You are going to have that energy. Whether it's one person who comes into your material world that kind of combines with you and helps you deal with the confusion and take on what you're meant to do, or whether it is literally a spirit guide. This is just the Fisher King going, don't worry. This is something you're meant to do. You're meant to expand horizons. You're meant to bring in the new. This is your time. This is your destiny. It is going to seem confusing, but you will have the grace. You will have the guide. You do not need to worry. You are meant to move forward with this. So I hope that resonates. I really, really strongly suggest you go and see Toke's reading around your Grail Quest, because it's pretty significant, I would say, pile 3. So see what the Grail Knight wants to talk to you about in that particular part of this. And as I said at the beginning, there'll be a couple of other collaborations that Toke and I will do to look at other aspects of this to help you along your way. But you've got a pretty big destiny, I think, on one level or another, however this resonates for you. So I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.